What's up, traders? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com. And what a day. Market's got a pretty decent gap up here this morning, 51.19 quarter there, opening prem. And we managed to pull all the way back down in about 20 points here to trade right into this 50.98.75 level. And then from there, we bounced pretty decently. And I thought that from 50.98.75s, we had room to 51.50.75s, which is a rather large move, 52 points, give or take. And that same level here in the SPY ends up being 508.46s here. And you can see this tested by 4 cents. So I put it up on my Instagram story. The accuracy of levels is just absolutely unreal. And it still remains to be the same, right? And that also applies to, the Nasdaq here. Coming down with same level, 974.75s, making a really nice bounce here, 210-point range on the day. And the question becomes is, like, okay, cool, these levels are so accurate and all this stuff. Did I end up making a trade from these levels today and end up actually, being able to do something with the S&Ps or the Nasdaq? And the answer to that, unfortunately, is no. I was just super, super picky with what I wanted to see. And, I think there's something to be said here, right? Here's my, morning brain dump channel here. So talking about the gap up. I liked the gap maybe 10 or 15 points lower, right? That, S&Ps maybe not all the way up at 51.19s, maybe somewhere down here at like 51.05s, 51.07s. And it's a little bit smaller of a move down here to 50.98s. It turns out it doesn't matter, right? And, essentially what I was looking at here with this was there's a bit of news at 10 a.m. to be aware of, but I think that will play to our advantage and a potential divergence to occur. So we did ultimately end up getting that divergence, which we'll look at as well. But I think the next piece of this, right, is in the S&Ps, we have levels down at 50.98.50s. It's 50.98.75s. I was looking and somehow ended up typing .50s, but which if it holds, opens the door for that 50.51.75s up above. NASDAQ is a long way from its levels at 974.75s, but that 10 a.m. news could give us a gift of a pullback for longs that then have targets up into 18.324s, right? So I'm thinking that, hey, if we can get this news announcement to pull us back here just after 10 o'clock, with that news announcement coming out at 10, then we've got room from these levels to then make a nice move to the upside. And again, we ultimately ended up doing that. And the divergence that took place here is really, really simple. It was right down here when we got these new lows in the S&Ps, in the NASDAQ. We did not make new lows here in the Dow. So you can see Dow was actually holding these morning lows and then trying to get back up through this 38,781s. And the Dow ultimately ends up setting up another divergence up here at 1150 on the day that marks the high of the day for the Dow. And S&Ps ultimately did it just a little bit later on in the day here at about 12:30. So there was some interesting divergence action that took place there, both not only from the long side but from the short side on the day. And with this, like I said, I ultimately ended up missing this, even though it was literally there. It was typed out. It was part of the plan. When we came down and we traded these levels, Ranger, I ultimately wanted to see something just a little bit extra with this. I wanted to see us maybe try and pull back and maybe get, a retest of these lows of some sort. And then from there, get a little bit better of a divergence, right? But at the end of the day, we had all of those things already there. We had the level, we had the divergence. I ultimately just ended up, not being able to push the button on this one and thought I could get a cuter, better entry into this position, and turns out from the level with the divergence was the best it was going to get on the day. So I kind of goofed on this one, but I did have another trade idea in here, actually two ideas in here, one being in gold. So gold after the news spiking down into 2142.10s that can hold and get back into an uptrend. We could play that into upper targets. And then Bitcoin here was really, really of interest for me. So Bitcoin trying to reverse that bar from yesterday, get back to all-time highs, and essentially from there, looking at 66,160s on a pullback, and then I like the potential for longs in there on the day. So that is the trade in which I ultimately ended up taking here. But if we take a look at, gold here, there's that 2142.10s, right? So a spike lower, down into 2142.10s right here. This is just after that news announcement. And then manages to get back in the uptrend and rallies and tags those upper targets, right? So everything was going according to plan. I ultimately didn't end up taking the gold position here. But again, that spike lower, the whole thing, looking for ultimately exactly what ended up happening, right? And then with Bitcoin here, again, 66,160s, you can see there's the level in place there. Looking for that pullback, and then I like the potential in there. And my targets were up into 69,550s. So I did manage to pick up positions in here at 66,195s were my fills, just off of the level, 66,160s. And then I ended up taking some of the position off right up through here, about 67,300s. So what is that? 66, call it 200s to 66,300, so like 1,100 points on the first trim. And then the rest of it, I just ended up closing about 5 minutes prior to the close of the day. So somewhere right in around here. I think we were trading like 67, 755, 775, something like that. I just went ahead and closed out the rest of the position up there. So again, I was looking for a move to 69,550s in here, and had that, played out, had that worked out, we'd have got another 1,500 to 1,800 points out of this thing to the upside, which would have been really, really nice. And all of this considering that my stop loss on the position from 66,195, call it 66,200 for easy math, my stop was just under these lows right down here. So this low was 65,850s. So I had about a 400 point stop on this position, right? 66,200s to 65,800s, right? Accounting for just a little bit of slippage in these positions to be able to make that move. So my first trim on this at that 67,300 area right up in through here was ultimately good for about 3 Rs from my first entry, and then the rest of this up here at 67, call it 700s, was good for roughly 1,500 points. So good for about 4 Rs on the rest of the position. So it ended up turning into a pretty decent day, but we certainly left a lot on the table here with the S&Ps and the Nasdaq and all of those things. So that is that at the end of the day is trading. We did leave some money on the table in here, but ultimately able to put in a pretty decent day here. And it brings me into the next point of what do we look to do for tomorrow? And with that, this 5098.75s, the 17974.75 level for the Nasdaq, both of those levels are still in play here. And if we are able to hold those and then open above them, hold the level and work back into an uptrend, then I like the long potential on the day. If we are to get under 5098.75s or get under the 974.75s for the Nasdaq, then I like us for a move lower. And I think we've got room down here into 5060s and 5052s if that is going to be the case. So that's what I got here for tonight's free video. Again, I apologize that these have not been as frequent as normal, but we are kicking off night 11 tonight of the current mentorship, and I've been putting all of my focus into that and some other things going on here just personally that has taken some time away from being able to put these videos out. But we wrap up tomorrow night with our last night, night 12 of the current mentorship. So that will free up about 3 hours per night for me. And we'll be back to putting out these videos here for you guys. So with that being said, take care. Hope it helps. And I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.